All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off. We were just talking about the different positions of the ratification debate, the debate to get the Constitution approved. We've been mentioning Federalists and Anti-Federalists, so let's actually get into which states ended up approving it and when and how and all that stuff. All right, so as the debate raged throughout all the colonies, each of them had their own little mini conventions, basically a spot where all the people could get together and kind of battle it out and argue over if the Constitution was a good thing, a bad thing, whatever it might be. And remember, you needed 9 to approve. So the very first one to approve, the very first state that we say is our actual number one state, was Delaware. They're the first ones to approve it. And then in order, Pennsylvania a couple days later, New Jersey followed, then Georgia and Connecticut. All of those were all for the Constitution right away. So now, right away, we've had about 5 states commit to saying yes to the Constitution. Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut. We've already got them. One win that the Anti-Federalists thought that they would for sure have. Remember, they only needed to win 5 states because you needed 9 out of 13. So if they could get 5 states to say no, then the Constitution would go away. So the Anti-Federalists were kind of hoping and banking on Massachusetts. They thought Massachusetts, they had the Shays Rebellion. Remember, people were mad that the government was taxing the farmers and all of that. Well, they thought that Shays Rebellion was pretty clear that the people of Massachusetts probably wouldn't want a big, strong government. However, though, the Federalists were writing those papers. They were out on the streets trying to get people to join their side, and it worked. In Massachusetts, then, the Federalists end up winning. That was a really important state. The Federalists win a state that the Anti-Federalists thought for sure that they would have, and it failed to them. So now the Anti-Federalists are scrambling. They're like, well, what else are we going to win? How are we going to convince any state to join our side? And even while they were fighting over Massachusetts, Maryland and South Carolina all said yes to the Constitution. So now we are at 8 states, all right? That means that the Anti-Federalists have to win the rest of them. So remember what I just said. 8 states already said yes to the Constitution. That means the Anti-Federalists needed the rest of them to say no, otherwise they would lose. But the key state in all of this was Virginia. Virginia, the Anti-Federalists thought, if Virginia said no, the rest of the states will say no. If Virginia says yes, the rest of the states will say yes. All right, Virginia is a big and powerful state. They thought that whatever they did, the rest of the states were going to follow. So they really focused on trying to win in Virginia. All right, so the Anti-Federalists really turned their attention. Let's campaign in Virginia so that they'll say no to the Constitution. Well, it doesn't really work out so well for them. So, as we said before, the Anti-Federalists, they're really worried about what is Virginia going to do. All right, we want them to say no, and we think the rest of the states after them will also say no. Well, they spent so much time focusing on trying to get Virginia to say no that they forgot that the Federalists were in other states trying to get them to say yes. And eventually, in New Hampshire, the Federalists won out, and that gave them 9 states. That's all it took, 9 states. So New Hampshire is the 9th state to actually make the Constitution go into effect. And after they did, basically all the other states had to agree to it. So it went pretty quickly after that. By May of 1790, Rhode Island was actually our final of our first 13 states to accept it. So that started. Let me do the math here. Rhode Island accepts it in 1790. We started this whole debate with Delaware in 1787. So it took 3 years to get that Constitution to actually pass. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a big, long fight for the people of the colonies. All right, kids, head over to part 3, your last part of the notes.